Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome back. This show is called something. We're going to talk about
Hmm.
D&D, based around a central topic which we'll deviate from most likely, but it
Yep.
still will be Dungeons and Dragons. Today we're talking
If
about. Oh, sorry, Karen.
I was gonna say, if you're here for like a thorough analysis of the subclass, this probably isn't the video for you. We're just having a general chat about it, and yeah, going off topic a lot.
Yeah,
But there should be timestamps below about each of the features. We kind of talk about them, but then we talk about a lot of other stuff too.
yeah, it's very much a conversation around this topic rather than being very in depth and giving you all the nitty gritty details. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's channels do that a lot better, a lot quicker. If you've seen previous videos in this series, these can go on over an hour, so not brief.
Yeah.
But we'll keep the intro brief and we'll go straight into talk about the cleric. We'll start with talk about just cleric specifically, or in general,
Sure.
before we go into the actual
Maybe we should
domain.
say we are talking about the Unity domain.
Yes,
Cleric.
this is
Videos.
another domain or another subclass from Unearthed Arcana, which was released earlier this month. I think it was on the 6th.
Only a few days ago, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it depends obviously when this video goes up. We said last time when we talked about the what was the previous one? It was the Bard College or College of
Yeah.
Creation, that there was some changes made. Like someone
Yeah.
accidentally or somehow got to the link when this was like before this was made. We said then we weren't going to talk about many of the changes, but there is one specific change we want to talk about in this one, specifically around the name and kind of
The theme. They really changed
the
the theme for
theme.
this one.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
really did, and I did hear that there may have been some backlash for it, but I didn't really look into
Yeah,
it.
I looked into it a bit actually, but I guess we can talk about them. We talk about the flavor and like the opening paragraph of this
Yeah.
subclass.
Uh,
But cleric overall, though,
mhm.
if we can touch on cleric, we've both played clerics.
Yes.
Cleric was the first class I ever played in an RPG, in a tabletop RPG. I played it in Pathfinder. I played a cleric of travel or something.
All right.
I feel like I've played more than one cleric, but again, I've helped a lot of people make classes. Like make through character creation, I've brought a lot of new people into the game. Same reason I think I've played warlock so much, because I've helped like 5 people make warlocks when I've not actually played a warlock. Um, but yeah, both of us have at least played a cleric. You played a
Yes.
forge
I
cleric, and
am
I played a grave.
currently playing a Forge Cleric.
Yeah.
And I think we've had a cleric in basically every campaign at least once,
Oh,
maybe
probably
even
yeah.
twice.
We had two life clerics in our first campaign.
It was
We had a
one,
trickery
really.
cleric. Yeah, they died and then they came back as a different race, but literally the same class and
To be
subclass.
fair, they died very quickly, which was unfortunate. Wasn't my
And
fault.
your fault as well, if I
Nah, I don't
remember.
know. It doesn't feel like it was my fault.
No,
But anyway, yeah, and we've had Trickery Cleric, I play a Forge Cleric. You've played a Grave Cleric, I believe?
I played a glaive. Yeah, a glaive cleric, a
A
grave cleric.
Grave
Yeah,
Cleric. I think we both like Cleric quite a lot.
yeah, I like cleric a lot.
It's
I
it's
feel like the cleric fits into like every party, right?
yes, it's fairly strong. It fits well into parties because you're probably going to have a heal somewhere. Loads of different types, like lots to do. Obviously, there's always this
Yeah,
thing with having to be some sort of religious man. Different to paladin, where I think we touched when we talked about the paladin subclass.
yeah,
You don't have to specifically know your god or even worship a god. You can just worship a tenet or an idea. Cleric is a lot more. You have to have a god. Like that's kind of
yeah.
part and parcel of it. You have to have to.
I,
Um,
I, I'm not 100% sure. I know again, this is Pathfinder stuff that I'm going off. I'm not sure if 5e kind of has the same idea, but in those ones, and I think I touched upon this in the Paladin video as well. You can have just a domain rather than a specific deity. So, like, if you kind of have faith in, well, Unity, for example, and then the gods surrounding that theme all empower you, and you don't specifically worship one of them.
yeah,
Um,
I
but I
guess
think
so.
in 5e, it seems like every cleric and the NPCs and stuff all do worship a specific deity.
Yeah, and
It's
I
more
think that's
traditional.
because when you get towards like divine intervention, it can kind of work with having just believing in unity and hoping one of the gods chooses, but
Mhm.
there's more of the idea of your faith with one specific god. He's rewarding
Yeah,
you 1
it's
out of
like
10
order.
times.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and mechanically it's fun as well. I'm playing a Forge Cleric. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Spiritual Weapon is a lot of fun. So I've got Spiritual Guardians now.
Yep.
Great spell. Pretty tanky. I'm playing a dwarf as well, so got a lot of tank, a lot of decent health pool.
Tank,
Good. Forge Cleric is especially good AC for early levels. It's a fun time, and generally when you're playing a cleric, obviously there's a lot you can do within whatever your domain is and whatever god you believe in, and how that kind of translates. So obviously even just within, grave cleric, there's a lot you can do within there. You could be a gloomy grave cleric. You can be quite a happy grave cleric.
I do feel that this is one where the subclass really does play into things a lot, right? Like, I don't feel like many of our clerics have been that similar. Aside from the fact that they are religious, most of them have been very different personality-wise, and their personality has been very, or not necessarily the personality, but like they're a subclass first and cleric second. I feel a lot of the time.
Yes, when I excuse me, when I went into Forge Cleric, definitely played heavy into the blacksmithing side of it, into the creation and blacksmithing. I flavor a lot of my spells. Healing touch or healing word is or whichever one is the touch spell. It's more of a cauterize, like it flavored like a cauterizing with Forge Flame or something. All the Spiritual Guardians, the Spiritual Weapon is all kind of Forge based. Everything's all about fire and the heat of Forge and melting and reforming, that kind of stuff. Even down to like the Channel Divinity, which is like you have to get certain you get a bunch of stuff to worth less than 100 gold and you can make it into an item with a ritual. I make that I go to a forge and do it, or I have like a little carry forge that I bring along that lets me do it.
Little carry forge.
Yeah. No cleric should leave without their little carry forge.
They're thermally.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And I think, because there's so many different options, I think we touched on this before we recorded, loads of subclasses. Probably the most out of anyone.
Maybe other than like fighter, but even then, I wouldn't be surprised if cleric had them.
Yeah, there's just so many and there's so much you can do with them that you really can't go wrong. You can be an evil cleric quite easily. You can be a good cleric. All man in between, neutral. It's a good time. It's a very open space. There's a lot of strong spells, so you're never going to feel weak. You're always going to feel useful.
Pretty much. I think it's really easy to kind of fuck up a class and then not feel like you're contributing much to the party. But I don't think you can do that with cleric. I think cleric's the core is so good, even if you're just casting bless and throwing out what's the cantrip?
Not guiding bolt. Sacred Flame.
Not guiding bolt. Sacred Flame, and just throwing out Sacred Flames. You usually feel like you're doing something. You're always there to pick someone up when they go down.
Yeah.
Spiritual Weapon, especially, like if you've just got that up constantly, you are actually contributing somewhat decent damage for the first few levels as well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the first few, 3 to 5 at least.
There's just so much, and
guidance is super good.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of clerics have a lot of impact. Even if they're not doing much, the one thing they do is going to cause a lot of impact. Compare that to say something like a barbarian, where if they miss their attack, whoops.
That's true.
But with me as a forge cleric, if I miss my main attack, that's like one of the 3 things I'm going to be doing on that turn. It doesn't really matter. And I could just forgo actually swinging to do something else.
It is very true. Having just played a low-level fighter at level 2, missing that one attack on the turn it's really frustrating because that's your turnover. At least when you're the cleric, usually that attack, if you miss it, doesn't matter because you're just filling. That isn't the main thing you do. You already cast bless earlier in the fight. You've got your cure wounds ready if someone goes down, or your healing word. You've probably got, well, maybe if you're level 3, you got your a spiritual weapon up and stuff as well.
So kind of falling back on that, cantrip or attack is kind of, it's fine because you're falling back on it. You've got a lot of other stuff you could have done instead, but that was kind of the last resort, as opposed to other ones where the attack action is the first port of call, and if that fails, you're kind of doing nothing.
Yeah, I like clerics. I think that's where I want to go with that.
Yeah,
that's to sum up. I like cleric.
Yeah, cleric good.
Cleric is one of the classes I could be happy to play multiple times. That being said, I have played barbarian twice. I have played fighter twice, 3 times, I guess, considering my paladin is
You've
actually
multi-classed into it
paladin subclass.
as well.
Not multi-class rather. I could see myself playing like 3 clerics in a row or something across multiple campaigns, just because they can function so differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So should we go into the subclass?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go on to this is the Unity domain, and straight off the bat, as we kind of mentioned before, there were some changes here. This was called the Love domain. They've changed it to
the Love domain.
Changed it to Unity
flavor.
domain.
We don't have we didn't download the PDF and it's gone now. We can't find it. We can't remember what the exact differences were, but
yeah, it was different. We'll go through the kind of the paragraphs here, then we'll go over that. But to let people who may have seen this and gone, hang on, what Unity domain? I thought that was a Love domain. They changed it.
Yeah.
So I'll read this here. A sense of oneness shines at the heart of healthy communities, whether bound together by friendship, blood, faith, or some other uniting force. The gods of unity deepen such bonds and delight in their strength. Clerics of these gods preside over marriages and other familial bonding customs, but they also nurture the emotional bonds of friendship and camaraderie. Their divine blessing bolsters and protects allies in battle through these deep bonds and turn aside malign influences. There's a bunch of different ones there. There's a Unity deities.
I recognise Athena. That's about it.
I recognise Heimdall from Norse.
Oh, Heimdall. I know Heimdall, yeah.
The rest, never heard of.
Yeah, I mean, most of them are D&D pantheons anyway. Greyhawk, Forgotten Realms, Gnomish.
Seberon, Halfling, Gnomish, Dwarven, Greek, not Greek, sorry, Elven.
Greek, actually, not many people know, that's not a D&D property.
It turns out. That was the thing.
I was wondering how that roguelike that we Hades. I was wondering how they managed to get hold of that IP.
Yeah, exactly. It turns out copyright doesn't last 4,000 years, or however long the Greek pantheon was. Anyway,
this is a domain that I think is a little overdue. To be honest, I feel like I'm surprised, especially with what it was before, which it was love. I was surprised that didn't exist. That there wasn't just something based around like marriage and friendship and stuff. That surprised me. I don't really know what we currently have that comes closest. I don't think we do really have.
I think maybe just clerics in general were there as kind of a uniting force, maybe in general. But even so, there's nothing that was very specific about it, right?
I mean, a lot of clerics are going to be performing marriages and stuff.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that it's a theme that kind of comes with the class of cleric as a whole. But as we kind of said, you often do become a subclass first, class second thing with a cleric, where being a trickery cleric or being a cleric of the grave or the forge, it feels like this stuff takes a backseat to that theme. So It's nice to see something that actually embraces that.
Yeah, because if someone asks you if you were a cleric, for example, then when someone asks you you're a monk, you kind of understand. But when someone asks you if you're a cleric, they really have to understand your subclass to really understand what kind of cleric you're probably going for.
Yeah.
Because obviously a forge cleric versus a grave cleric is going to be very, very different. Unlike when we kind of discussed monks. Maybe it's just us, but we feel that you're gonna be punching stuff. You're gonna be a punchy monk man, and then underneath that you're gonna be doing this other stuff. And this is the other way around, where you are a specific cleric, and then you do like the general cleric stuff outside of it.
Yeah. So the love one was different. I had all the different gods listed. I had like Aphrodite listed. Yeah. That's the only one I remember there.
And that was definitely leaned to more towards that side. Kind of, it was more of a love and beauty. I think they mentioned that. And I'm wondering if they split that. I'm wondering if this is why they've done it. They've actually split this. They're going to at a later point bring out a beauty cleric or beauty domain.
I think there is already a beauty domain. Yeah, there was one it was done on Twitter actually, by Mike Morales. So that might be one that's already in the in the books for an actual Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah, so maybe that's they thought love, that kind of love they were going for was leaning more towards that, and they wanted to pull it away, pull it more towards communities, friendship, kind of it, including stuff. I think when they did the love one, they did the whole thing where there was like loads of different types of love. Familial love, like friend love, and
friendship, and stuff,
romantic love,
which is fine. I think that's good. But I think that one of the issues with it, and it's something that definitely stood out to me immediately after reading on the flavor, I thought I'd love to play a cleric like this. especially coming out of Hades, where Aphrodite was one of my favorite gods in there, because I just like the weakness debuff so much.
Yeah.
And then seeing the spell list immediately afterwards, where half of them were like charms and and enchantments. So I was like, oh, that's a little strange, but I guess it's thematic. I think it fits a beauty domain a lot more, to be honest.
Yeah, being more of a kind of a charming, beguiling person, as opposed to someone who just wants everyone to work together.
Yeah, basically. And some of the features which have changed since did kind of embrace that stuff a bit more, which was a little strange. And I didn't think it was too bad. I thought it was like, it seemed a little, what's the word, dissonant or something. Is that the word I'm looking for? It seemed a little dissonant whispers. Yeah, it seemed a bit off. And some people said it was like very, very bad.
Yeah, I think I can kind of understand maybe some of the backlash was leaning that kind of felt a bit.
It seemed like a bad name for a cleric that's just supposed to be, especially the flavor text did really seem to suggest it was about love. None of the flavor text suggested anything about like illusion magic and charming people. Yeah, so it did seem a little strange.
Yeah, I remember seeing some stuff where it was like people talking about like Cupid, as a love, would be like a love god or whatever, who went round and like forced people to fall in love or whatever.
Yeah, I think Aphrodite is kind of the same as well.
Yeah, I don't think that was what they were going for, which is probably why they changed it. And I guess that kind of stuff took away from what they were trying to do, which is the Unity domain, which I think is a very, very good idea.
I think you could call this the love domain as well, to be honest. The class feature, especially the first thing which we'll get into here, probably does fit better under the description of Unity than it does under love. I think that could not confuse people, but it's very easy to misattribute what people mean when they're saying love, right? Maybe that's just like an English thing, the way we use the word.
Yes.
But maybe Unity is a little clearer, but I think you could play the same. At least the idea that I had for the character that I would want to play as a love cleric, I think fits maybe better into this domain.
Yeah, I feel like this subclass is the epitome of the real treasure is the friendships we made along the way. Which I think is quite a fun thing to explore. We'll probably come back and touch on like characters we can think of that we might want to play. But I guess we want to move on to domain spells. Unless you have anything else you want before we go.
I like the idea that this character that you can make a character like this where that one of their main motives is just keeping the party together and working well together. Like that's their main priority within the party, is making sure everyone's getting along. And because you can have issues between other characters and stuff. And like if I'm playing a character and I see that there's not necessarily an issue between the players, but an character issue, and that's like a fine thing to have, characters having disagreements and stuff with one another. A lot of the time I think, well, my character's not really the sort of person who would step in and try and want them to get along better. That's kind of their thing that they're doing. But I would like to have some way of highlighting that and like bringing more of that together. And I think playing a character like this kind of allows you to sit two other characters down, or multiple other characters down a bit more, and get people to interact with each other. So I think this is good. I get couples therapy.
Couples therapy domain.
Yeah. I think it's really good if you're the sort of person who wants to encourage the other people in your party to roleplay together.
Yeah. Well, that's something I'm doing with my Forge Cleric. Is actually that's the kind of path I was going with him.
Yeah.
Where he is going on this journey of discovery to help out with where he can learn a lot of stuff, and in that he's trying to like get everyone to bond. Because that's kind of his idea of an adventure party, is everyone should be should work together. Not that we've had any like major disagreements or anything, but that's he's been my idea for him was going to be kind of like a guiding force for everyone, like help any sort of disagreement, that kind of thing.
I think if I was going to play with a group of new players, I might play this subclass, just to keep bringing the focus back to the characters. I think that's quite easy with this. Yeah, let's come to the spells then.
Yeah, as with all clerics, first level, you gain domain spells at the cleric levels listed in the Unity domain. See divine domain, class feature, and domain spells work. Basically, you get these, and they're prepared. They don't take away from the number of your prepared spells you have. You just have these.
Yes.
So first level, you get heroism and shield of faith. Third level, aid, warding bond. Fifth, beacon of hope, sending. Seventh, aura of purity and guardian of faith. Ninth, greater restoration, and Rari's telepathic bond.
A lot of the time, if you are interested in like looking at a subclass, a cleric subclass, you might look for the spells that you can't normally get as a cleric. Obviously, getting a cleric one is still fine because it's like automatically prepared, especially one that you would otherwise prepare anyway. But seeing what it kind of opens you into, what extra stuff it gives you. Rari's Telepathic Bond is a wizard spell. Or if Turkey was Paladin, but I think they made it cleric recently in that new UA that came out with all the extra like class features.
Maybe.
But I think most of these other ones are already in the cleric spell list. Heroism apparently isn't, which I find a little strange, but Bard and Paladin, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, yeah. Because that's a charisma thing,
right? Not a great spell, in my opinion. Is that one person gets temporary hit points and is immune to being frightened? I have this in my Artificer. We went through a fight in which people were being frightened, and I still didn't use it. I was waiting to use it, but I think every time it came around, the person just made their saving throw before I was going to use it.
Yeah.
But that's like one of the ones I automatically get prepared as an Artificer. Shield of Faith it's a really good spell, but I don't think it's as good as Bless, so I don't really know when you use this over Bless, to be honest. It's a bonus action. Maybe if you really want to save your action to do something else on that like first turn in combat.
Maybe, yeah.
Shield of Faith can be better. And if you do want to, if someone is getting chunked and you want to help them out, it's all right. I think Aid's something most of the groups we've been in don't really use, but probably should.
I think I've used Aid. Maybe I used Enhance Ability, not Aid.
Enhance Ability. Aid is increased maximum hit points and current hit points by 5. It's like a 30-foot range healing word almost.
Yeah.
Apart from it has a casting time of an action. But if multiple people go down in one turn, you can get them up with this. Having that prepared at all times is pretty good, because that situation is going to come eventually. And you don't necessarily... Aid isn't something you're going to use all the time. But when the situation comes up, it's pretty nice to have. Warding Bond really fits this. I think it's the first spell you think of, probably, when you think of this domain. So obviously great that that's there. It's an interesting spell. The feature that you get on this is actually kind of similar to it anyway. Probably a better version of this, to be honest. But I'm not 100% sure if you would use this. I guess it's not concentration, so maybe you would use it alongside your other stuff as well. The others... I
mean,
Purity...
Great Restoration is something you're going to be using, or you're going to want to have as a cleric anyway.
I think Guardian of Faith is something that you usually are going to be preparing all the time anyway, so it's like an extra preparation. It's a lot. Greater Restoration, it's just something you're going to... It's always nice to have that prepared.
Having Sending as well, because generally with Sending, it's a very useful spell. You know, tell someone you're on your way, ask for information from someone far away, that kind of thing. I have, now that we've just reached 5th level, I've now taken Sending because I think my character would use it a lot. And if anyone's watched Critical Role, the amount of sendings and the amount of fun you can have with sending is a lot. And having that prepared all the time is great. And I also think it works really well for the Unity domain in general, because obviously you're trying to connect people, keep friendships alive. So being able to send, one of your party members has a sick mother who's worried about them, be able to just send and say, hey, your son or daughter's doing fine. I think looking at this spell list, regardless of quality, I don't see any spell that makes no sense for the Unity domain.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of just like almost like a vanilla cleric, almost in a way. It is very close to something the clerics kind of generally embody anyway. That just putting a bunch of cleric spells in there in the first place you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, I guess it's not vanilla cleric. It's like cleric plus, right?
No. Sure, yeah.
Where the other clerics are going to do this stuff, but like we said, it's going to be secondary. And then this becomes your main focus, and you can really explore this space, which has lots of interesting stuff to go with it.
I just can't think of many default cleric spells that wouldn't just fit in here anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I mean. A very telepathic bond though it depends on the way your players play, but allows all your party to communicate telepathically. Useful for combat, I guess. Where you especially if you don't like the metagaming in combat, and we tend to avoid it, giving you the opportunity to actually all metagame and decide what to do in combat is kind of cool.
I have seen, because we do kind of discuss, sometimes we discuss tactics and stuff,
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I think that's fine. I've
That's
definitely
gonna
seen
be
the rule of like
fun.
you get like one sentence or something because that's how much you would get in the game. You would only get like one
Sure.
sentence to tell someone something else. And also, I think there's the 10-to-1 rule where 6 seconds of combat translates to 60 seconds in the real world. So you basically have like a minute to come up with your go, or you take the dodge action, which I want to try and implement a bit more when I DM, because I think that does
It makes things faster.
makes things faster, introduces a bit more drama when you've got two really good options like, oh, I think this enemy's about to die, but I could get this guy up, but he also has a death save that he has a death save in the bank.
Yeah.
Like, but if I miss, then those decisions sometimes could take people several minutes where they start discussing it with the rest of the team. If you just limit to them a minute, they have to make a snap decision, and it could be the wrong one, which is kind of the interesting part.
Yeah. But I mean, this giving you an excuse, that spell in general, giving you an excuse to be able to all trip together and discuss what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Probably better to do it in character if you're going to do that. But that's cool. And it's obviously a spell that fits as well.
Yeah, and just being able to telepathically talk is also just any
That's
time you
good
need to be
social
stealthy.
situations
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a very good spell. Great Restoration obviously is going to be used all the time. Anytime you get most spells will probably say like this can only be cured by a wish or grace to restoration. Well, there you go. Great Restoration, perfect.
Should we talk about the Emboldening Bond then?
Absolutely. So at the first level, domain feature, you can forge an empowering bond between allies. As an action, you choose two willing creatures that you can see within 30 feet of you. Excuse me. This can include yourself, and create a magical bond between them. While either bonded creature is within 30 feet of each other, the creature can roll a d4 and add it to the number rolled onto an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw it makes. Each creature can add the d4 no more than once per turn. The bond lasts for an hour until you use the creature again. You can use this feature once, and you regain the ability to on a long rest. You can also expend a spell slot to use the feature again, so just any spell slot, first or higher.
Yeah.
This is basically Bless and Guidance together.
Bless and Guidance put together that lasts an hour.
Without concentration.
So they've done a couple of these recently in these recent UIs where you can use the feature again by expending a spell slot. And that's super powerful. Like, I'm kind of surprised they're introducing that, especially with this one, just an extra first level spell slot. If this was a first level spell, it would be maybe the best one.
Yeah.
But especially since it doesn't take concentration, it would probably be the best cleric first level spell if it was. So this is absolutely insane. Even if you couldn't get it back on a spell slot, this feature would be super good.
Yeah.
They don't get any of the like proficiencies that a lot of the subclasses get. No armor or weapons or no skills or anything like that, or tools or cantrips, which a lot of the other ones do. But this is very good.
Yeah, it's Bless plus Guidance, no concentration, lasts for longer.
It can only be
Bless.
used. Can only be used on one roll per turn, which is good to point out because Bless is a lot better on a fighter with like 4 attacks than it is on.
And also,
you're probably not using your concentration on Bless by that point.
I guess as well, you got to make sure if there's a saving throw coming up, if you've used your D4 on the attack roll, you can't use it for the saving throw in that same turn.
For sure.
So there are definitely some downsides, but it does last an hour.
That's per round. Per turn is different. If the saving throw is on a different creature's turn, you have it on that turn as well.
All right, okay, that's fine then.
That's fine. It's mostly the main limitation you're going to find is multi-attack. You can only use it on one.
All right.
So it's definitely not that great on a fighter, for example, just because it's good. It's still a really good feature.
It's probably better on a rogue.
You put it on a fighter. Maybe better on a rogue because they're making fewer attacks in the first place. I do think like a paladin or a barbarian as well. It goes very well, and they're only going to get it on one of their 2 attacks per turn. But
anyone who ever uses Great Weapon Fighter or Sharpshooter, it's probably good to put on them as well.
Yeah. Just they have to be within 30 feet of each other. That's the other best specific thing. So good on 2 melee, I think. We should probably also speak that this does actually get increased by a later one. We might want to skip to that while we're on the topic of this feature.
Is that Enduring Unity? Where is it? Yes.
That is and not that one specifically. The Protective Bond first, and then we can get to that one too. I suppose. Maybe we leave that last one.
Maybe we'll just go through it because we're only missing one. Then we might as well just do Shared Burden and go through it and then come back to it.
Sure. Okay. And anything else on Emboldening Bond? I mean, it's pretty easy to look on the face of it. I think it is better than most of the other things that clerics get at first level. I would be surprised to see this make it to published content in this state. I think it is too good for that.
Maybe. I think because they're not getting
Especially
anything
the
else.
ability to reuse it as well.
I think that'll be the interesting thing.
Because there aren't many features that kind of set that precedent.
Yeah, sorry. The Expender spell slot to use the feature again, which has been coming up several times. I wonder if they expand that to previous things. It's similar with this.
I don't think they will, but I would like them to do it.
Yeah, because Sorcerer subclasses now are getting a spell list, extended spell list. Which the previous ones don't, and some people are saying that's another step on the road to maybe helping Sorcerer be a bit better. But I
mean that's true.
It's one of those things which is making the UA stuff more powerful just intrinsically than previous stuff. And I guess that's what playtesting stuff is for. They're trying these things, and maybe they'll make it one of the they had the other not proficiencies. What was it? Where they had the normal stuff and they had expansions on them, like you could do the aim for rogues as part of their.
Yeah, they added that list of class feature tweaks, basically.
Yeah, class feature variations.
I
wonder if this will become one of those where they say like
maybe because that's obviously going to get published in something. So anything that you see here like this, it sets a precedent that might crop up in those later as well.
Yeah.
I think it is something worth looking into. A lot of the features that a lot of classes get are good, but then you only get them once per long rest or once per short rest. I like the idea of being able to sacrifice a resource to get it back, just so that you can use your defining subclass feature more often.
Yeah,
I think that's very cool.
And it's just more more decisions that you can make, rather than just being like, and I guess the other thing as well is it kind of stops you. I know you see this a lot as kind of a joke that people say a lot of time. People save everything. You're playing a game. You save all the healing potions till the end because you might need them, and then you never end up using them. This, I think, is one of the things that will help you use it more frequently because at least if you need to use it again, you can fall back on using a spell slot for it.
For sure. But this isn't the feature that they could just say you can use this a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. They can't do that because that would be way too good. But allowing you to again use a resource to get it is a lot better. I would like to see this in other features.
I don't think it also allows more design space because eventually you could make something even stronger than this and force it to only be once per day. Sure. There's then things. There's you're essentially expanding the kind of the gauge or the range of power you can give something by saying either it's on a short rest or number of times equal to your whatever modifier, or on your long rest plus a spell slot, or on a long rest only, or at dawn or whatever the rules are. The more space you give design, the more stuff you can do with it, and the more kind of finely tuned you can make stuff, and give people more opportunities to do stuff and realize I can only do this on a long rest. This is probably quite powerful.
I guess one thing to just speak about the feature in general. It lasting an hour is so good. I'm pretty sure Blast only lasts a minute. I could be wrong.
I looked it up. It only lasts a minute. Okay. So it's definitely a combat thing.
Yeah, and this lasts for a whole dungeon, which is fantastic, lasting an hour. Doing it on ability checks.
Or ability checks,
or you might have short rest, obviously.
Or it could last an entire RP thing. So all your your bard has it on all the speech checks. Very good, very, very good. And again, plenty of room to do some RP here. Two of your party members are bickering. You say, look, you can work together. With my god, I can help you work together. We'll bond you together. Then they go, wow, we are stronger together.
Rogues already. I mean, this works quite well with the rogue because rogues are already kind of relying on the person in melee a lot of the time to give them opportunities. So it can kind of force a dynamic between. They already have a dynamic maybe with the fighter or the paladin or the barbarian in the group where they're kind of working together to take down a foe. Giving them this on top of it can kind of add to that. Or you can maybe bring that into the role playing a little bit more, where those two become like good pals because they're good at working together to take down a single enemy. The big thing though, we call it Bless and Guidance rolled together for 2 people. It also stacks with Bless and Guidance is the thing,
Yes.
which makes it really good. Levels 1 to 4, you're probably just putting Bless up every turn anyway. Getting 2d4 onto the attack rolls of everyone, it's crazy. It's so good.
Or at least onto 2 people. At least onto 2 people. You can get 2d4
people,
in everyone.
sure.
That's the
I mean,
point, right? So 2d4 is a good. It's minimum 2.
In a party of 5 people, there's probably like 3 people that really benefit from Bless in the first place, because the cleric, this cleric especially, is going to be probably using cantrips. They don't have heavy armor and stuff, so they don't benefit from Bless because a cantrip with a saving throw, like Sacred Flame, doesn't benefit from Bless because the opponent has to roll a saving throw. So if you've got like another spellcaster like that, I think there's a good chance you're probably only getting maybe 2 or 3 people in a lot of parties that even benefit every turn from something like this. And Bless. But yeah, really good feature. You probably got 2 people in the party who can make use of it.
Yeah.
But considering you don't get heavy armor, probably you're not one of them. They have to be close together, so they're probably going to be 2 melee people. But
you could always stand next to the wizard.
You could have 2 ranged people. Yeah, maybe that's true. But I don't think the wizard's the best person for it. Like, if you had, I wouldn't stand next to a wizard on my own accord.
No,
if you had,
they smell.
I mean, you wouldn't want to stand next to a wild sorcerer. That's for sure.
That's very true. Although maybe you do because it's funny. Should we move on to Channel?
Yeah, let's move on to the next one.
So obviously everyone also gets another chat. You get Turn Undead. I think it's Turn Undead.
Turn Undead is ridiculously strong, by the way. I've only used it once, I think, but I used it in a swarm of like 20 zombies, so it was so good.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where we've talked about this in the past previous videos, and we talked about this earlier. Being a cleric second, that Turn Undead thing, like
doesn't necessarily fit with all the
subclasses, like Forge, even maybe Unity. Like when you're thinking like Life Cleric, Grave Cleric, they're really going to be more thinking about the undead as part of their subclass anyway. Yeah. One like this might not think about it, but I think we just talked about like it's not so much that you are turning undead, it's the fact that the undead don't like your radiant faith.
Yeah. But before we go on to talk about this channel divinity specifically, though, we should say that the channel divinity you get from your subclass is going to be you should just use it. Like you should just use that, because in a situation where Turn Undead is going to be better, you're going to know that it's going to be better, and it's going to be way better. Because if you are fighting undead, Turn Undead is absolutely amazing. So just use Turn Undead if you're fighting undead. If you're not fighting undead, you're just use this. That's fine.
And some of these also happen outside of combat. I know the Forge Cleric one is the creation thing. But we'll read this one and we'll have a go with it. You can use your channel divinity to protect your allies through the strength of your shared bonds. When a creature you see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to choose a number of other willing creatures you can see up to the number of creatures equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum 1. Distribute the damage taken between the original target and the chosen creatures. Each creature must take at least 1 damage. Apply any damage resistance vulnerabilities of the creature involved after you distribute the damage.
So this is super strong as well. You can just say, okay, I'm just a cleric that literally never uses their channel divinity unless I'm fighting undead. And then when the situation occurs where someone gets hit for 50 damage, you can be like, oh yeah, I'll use my channel divinity now. You could do that, and I'll always have this, and it'll always be useful. I don't know if you you get your channel divinity on once per long rest, and eventually twice.
Yes.
Up to 3 times per long rest. So it isn't something you just pop at the first opportunity, but you'll know when it's good, I guess. It happens often enough where someone gets critted for a lot of damage, where you can feel pretty confident and happy that you're splitting the damage. I guess it depends how many people you got in your party. We go with like 5 players. 4 or 5 players, I think this is pretty good.
Yep. The way I'm reading this as well, let's say your barbarian gets hit by an attack which he reduces, you have to split the original damage first, not the reduced damage. So
if he gets hit for 50, then you split 50 between 5 people, and then he gets he then
His
applies his
10
resistance after that.
becomes 5, yeah. It doesn't become 25
so-
when you're splitting it 5 ways for 5 each. No.
Yeah, I guess not so great on a barbarian actually, because you're essentially splitting double the damage. You might just want overtick on him unless it would knock him out. But also a good when something hits someone that you didn't want to be hit, like the wizard, if they do get hit by something.
Useful as
Or
well.
a fireball when someone's low. You
Yep.
can take some of that damage and split it.
Going into combat as well, and then the first hit becomes massive. Not a crit or anything. You just you use this and go, oh shit, okay. We've at least saved one person going down straight away. Now we can rethink what we're doing here because that hurt, but we've mitigated it. We've learned the lesson. We can now move on with fairly decent strength. We've only lost like 10 health each or whatever, rather than one of us going down.
You do typically have only a couple of people taking damage most combats. I would say in most combats you don't have everyone taking damage. You certainly don't have everyone taking damage equally. Which means that like some people's hit dice just don't really get spent in between combats. Meaning they're kind of like a wasted resource. So being able to split the damage is super duper good.
Yeah, and we're splitting this, evenly, but you don't have to. Again, if your barbarian didn't get hit, obviously you can give him most of the damage.
Distribute. That's a good point.
As long as each creature takes 1 damage. So you can reduce a little bit here and here, or give loads of the damage to your barbarian who will reduce it.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I considered that.
Like, to be fair, you could choose, like, your wizard gets hits. You could just choose the wizard and the barbarian. You choose the wizard to take 1 damage, the barbarian take the other 49. He reduces it.
I mean, the thing about this is it's a guaranteed safety net. It's a death's defiance. It's you go into a combat knowing no party member can just be one shot at any point. No party member can be completely fucked by a single crit because you have something that mitigates that always until it's used.
And you can mitigate it, however you want. You decide. Which are the best places to put this. You could be very mean. And if you're this way inclined, if you have charmed a creature or dominated a creature, they might count as a willing creature, and you can distribute all of the damage to them. Obviously, they don't have to roll.
It's a good thing they're not the love domain anymore that gets all the charms.
Yes,
stuff.
But yeah, if your bard or someone is charmed or is controlling one of the enemy, and they're there, they're a resource. They're basically a blood bank for you.
Sure, if they're winning, yeah.
But
I guess it is up to the GM, but that's
it's also probably not really in keeping with the spirit of the.
Up to your wisdom modifier, so up to 5 creatures, and like I said, we usually have 5 people in our party.
Yeah,
but I mean, even if we didn't, and maybe we'd want to toss some of this onto like the beast companion or the steel defender for the artificer or something, because their hit points don't matter nearly as much when you can get them back, or the druid, because the druid's hit points don't matter while they're in beast form, and something like. If someone just gets hit by a fireball, you can you can take all the damage everyone took and put as much of it as you can onto the tiefling as fire resistance.
Yeah.
And just one shot the tiefling in the fire.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff you can do with this. I think as well, you could put this on a. I guess what I don't. It's not worded here, but I assume you can't overkill someone, so you couldn't put it all onto a familiar. You could only put up to their max health. Maybe you could overkill someone.
I guess you could. Why couldn't you?
Yeah,
if the guy standing next to you is on 2 HP and someone else gets hit for 60, pop on the guy with 2 HP and then put what is this, an action? I guess Channel Divinity is an action. Then just healing word them up. It doesn't say they can't.
This one specifically is a reaction.
Oh yeah, this is a reaction. Of course it is. I'm dumb. I guess.
I guess if
this makes it to written, I assume it will say they can't take more than their current hit points.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably rule it as that as well, because otherwise that is a little too good. You can use it. A familiar does cost 10 gold, and early levels that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Putting this all of this on the steel defender, that's nothing. The artificer it takes 1 minute to resurrect the steel defender.
Yeah,
outside of combat.
It's one of those things where you basically if you could do that, you could basically use them as like a battery or like an extra hit. There's a lot of ways you can use this. When you need this, it's going to be the best thing that you could possibly have in your arsenal.
Yeah, unless you're fighting 30 undead, in which case you use
Yes.
it on turn undead instead.
If you're
Both
fighting
these-
some big bad, then this is what you want.
Both these features are really good, and I mean you're going to be using Emboldening Bond all the time, and you probably, I guess most people know like how much combat they're getting into for a day, and if someone does get hit really hard, you're just going to pop this.
Mhm.
I think it's something you're going to use all the time. It's very good. I think a lot of, I mean, how many days does Bear go without casting Channel Divinity?
Oh,
Most of
all
them,
the
right?
time, all the time. Like unless we
I
need
think
something specific.
How many times have you even cast it?
Once, I think, and that was to
Once?
make the tokens I needed to cast a different spell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've cast this often because there's not many times you need this in our campaign. Oh, in the one I'm DMing, the Forge Cleric used the Channel Divinity to make a suit of armor. For RP reasons. Like, if Bear didn't have that spell or didn't have that Channel Divinity, he'd be fine. We wouldn't miss it. You would miss this. Like, if you use this once, you're going to want to use this over and over again. You're going to miss this.
Yeah, I think it's something we touched on in, I think, the last video, where we said a subclass is really good if your subclass features is something you use all the time, because it really, it brings that identity of the subclass forward more. And even if the other thing you've got is really strong, like I think the Blessing of the Forge one is really strong. The things that you can do with that are crazy. When you need it, it is really useful. But that being said, I would rather have something that is decent that I use all the time, rather than something that's crazy good and very situational, or even somewhat situational. But I mean, I would say that this is crazy good and not situational. So
yes,
very good feature.
It's one of those things, I think, with Dungeons and Dragons, where if something is situational, it comes down to the way you play the game and how your DM is running things and what your DM is preparing.
Yeah, for sure.
With the video game, we said right at the top, like, we're saving all this stuff up for the final boss or whatever, but the game is already designed. You kind of know what the game is doing, and so you can start making informed decisions of when to use your rare stuff. And you know that they're giving you something which will be useful, because they've designed the game around you will need health potions to use or something like that. With something like the Forge Cleric Channel Divinity, there might never be an opportunity to use it. Maybe someone in your party needs like a sword or something, but unless like there's a lot of times someone's coming up to you, some NPCs like, oh, I need this making or this that making, unless you like put that out there yourself, or even though you can only do it once a day. It's one of those situations which is kind of, if the DM isn't really putting anything there where you can use it, and not saying he should, but maybe you have to start really thinking. Like, for example, I used it to create the spell components for a different spell. The other one for the one I'm DMing used it for something else.
Cleric creativity, right? As well.
Yeah. You could kind of do your own thing, but it's very much like, I guess the point I'm making is, when they give you these things to use, you have to be the one to really put forward the effort to use it. You can't expect the game or the world to give you the opportunities and kind of give you the, hey, you should use this now, all the time. Like, you have to kind of think of ways to use it. Unlike one like this, which is because it's kind of a combat thing. There are lots of rules around combat, which make combats very consistent, I guess. So you know exactly when you're going to be using this and what kind of situations you're going to be using this in, which makes it a lot easier for it to be used, which makes it a lot more interesting as part of a subclass.
So in our latest session with you, it was we're in like a situation where we had to smuggle someone into a castle without the guards finding out who this person was. It was a goblin. We dressed him up in chainmail, and the whole time I'm looking at my character sheet thinking, I wish I had something I could use that was useful here.
Yeah.
But I'm playing a fighter, so I don't. But I don't usually play. I wasn't saying I don't usually play fighters. I usually play something with a spell or some feature that I can make use of. If I was playing my artificer, I'd be scanning my spell list, everything I got prepared. What are my other features? Or how can I use these to really help with the situation? And a lot of the Cleric channel divinities can be kind of used like that. Maybe not a lot of them, actually. Now that I'm looking at it, a lot of them are just combat related. But class features in general, I do like it when you have stuff like that where you're just racking your brain. How can I use this creatively? This is a really open-ended feature that I have. How can I use it to get myself out of this situation? Compared to these two so far, which are pretty much just specifically stat things related to combat, you can, when you're out of combat and trying to think of something to do, these don't help you in the slightest.
No,
Which can be a little disappointing, I guess.
I guess they're the two sides of the coin we've kind of discussed here. Is because they're useful in combat, they're going to be useful. When they're going to be useful. There's not really much.
They're going to be useful.
There's not really much scope to really play around with it outside of like how you divide the damage or how you divide who gets the D4s. But at least they're going to be useful, and at least you're going to use them. Obviously on the flip side, there's the things where you might it's something that doesn't help you most of the time, but when it's going to help you, like, and you can think creatively, you've got a lot more space to work with it. But then on the negative, it might never be useful.
Yeah, and I've played characters before where it can be frustrating to be put into a situation where you have to think creatively and just think, well, my character can't do anything here, and I'm playing a really low charisma character as well. So even if I come up with a good idea of something to say, my checks are going to be pretty low anyway. So my character can't do anything in this situation. Looking at my character sheet, all I can do is just prepare myself for a fight if it comes down to that. And that can be a little frustrating. Shall we go to the next feature?
Yes, Protective Bond. The bond you forge between people shields them from harm. When either creature chosen from your emboldening feature is within 30 feet of each other, the creature can use its reaction to grant resistance to all damage to the other creature. When that other creature takes damage, the resistance lasts until the end of the current turn.
Yeah, so try and think of like if you could have a spell that you could use as a reaction to give you resistance to all damage.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost like Absorb Elements, which is a very, very good first level spell. But that only works on elemental damage, which you're not always going to be fighting. If that worked on all damage, that would be a lot better. And if you could use that at will as a reaction without having to expend a spell slot, that would be an incredible feature. So adding this onto what is already basically Bless and Guidance rolled together for two people, that one person can use their reaction to half the damage that someone else takes. So far, I will say I don't think any of these three features are going to make it to published content with the way that they're written right now, because they are so powerful. This is crazy.
Yeah, because this also there's a couple of like resistances that very rarely come at like force damage. This works for that. This also
doesn't work for the barbarian.
This also works for shared burden. You give all of it to someone else then uses their reaction to halve it.
I hadn't considered that.
What's good about I guess what's good about these so far is they all work together, right?
They do all work together,
and that's
the
whole point of
another
the
really good
subclass.
You want a lot of subclass features that work together and synergize with one another.
Yeah, and especially when you're the Unity cleric. It's not so much that they all work together, which they do. It's also that your team has to work together to do this. Now, we said previously, maybe at your table you don't give them that much time to actually come up with what they're going to do on their turn, which kind of makes it so your players have to understand what you do and what they can do to help.
Yeah.
So, for example, you suddenly decide, I'm going to share this bird and give it all to this guy. And, the guy that they're linked with goes, hang on, I'll use my reaction as well to help that. Without discussing it. Once you get to that kind of level of camaraderie within both the players and the characters, then it becomes more interesting. I guess that's maybe what they're trying to breed here. There's just so much space to do with these three, and they're all so strong anyway. So,
I think a lot of classes don't have a lot of options in combat as well. Like the fighter generally doesn't have that many options in combat other than swing their sword. So it is really nice to just give them another thing that they can do. As long as they remember it. Yeah, you're right. I really hadn't considered the shared burden thing. It's super good, even just for that. But considering you're going to want to put some people in melee, probably, because I have to be within 30 feet, the reaction of a melee person is worth a lot, because that's what's stopping the person they're engaged in melee with from just walking past them and attacking the wizard or the cleric in this case as well.
Yeah. Well, this is something that I've wanted to bring up or wanted to discuss. When you're in combat and you're now thinking as the characters, you kind of know if someone's used their opportunity attack,
Sure.
And in character, you can think, okay, they as part of this 6 seconds, that person's moved away. They've tried to swing it. That means I've got time to move because they can't swing at both of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you in character work out? Oh, all right, the fighter has used their reaction to help them, unless it's kind of like because this feels like it's magic, right?
Well, I guess that the point is like that you see an opportunity opening up for you, right?
Mhm.
If you're a hobgoblin and your hobgoblin boss in the background is being peppered with spells or whole monsters affecting them or something, whole person, I guess. It's Harold coming out
Yeah,
there.
that's racist.
And you can think that, well, this hobgoblin, he wants to get to the wizard. The only reason he isn't taking a direct path to the wizard right now is because the barbarian's in front of him. And as soon as he sees an opportunity where the barbarian's distracted, he can slip by. He's going to take it and go for the wizard. I think it's quite easy to do that. And I feel like I guess DMs should probably consider that more often when they're doing an encounter or playing things out in an encounter. Something isn't always going to run up to the first thing it sees, and a lot of things are smart enough to realize, oh, that thing that's a really squishy target in the back, that is hypnotic patterning half our army or something.
Yeah.
I need to get to that thing as soon as possible, and the only reason I'm not doing that is because this guy's in my way.
Yeah.
So the reaction is a useful resource for people in melee. It's also useful for the rogue if they have any way of getting sneak attack outside of their turn with their reaction.
Yeah.
But still, even with that being said, this is still a reaction you're going to want to use a lot of the time.
Yes, very true. 8th level feature, potent spellcasting. You add your wisdom modifier to damage you deal with cantrips. You get one or the other. There's a rule tip here, which is kind of going through this. It says, the divine domains of player's handbook each give cleric one of two features at 8th level, either divine strike or potent spellcasting. If the clerics of a domain typically rely on weapon use, the cleric gets divine strike, otherwise they get potent spellcasting. It's basically telling you, as you're looking through this, you're going to be a spellcaster over a weapon user.
Yeah, especially you don't have the proficiencies in their armor or the weapons. So that's what you're going to do. They have done in the class feature variants. They've changed it so that you can choose one or the other, but that's mostly for the melee people, I think, because the melee people might want a cantrip, but the cantrip people probably don't want a melee.
Yeah, this kind of comes down to kind of how you roll your stats, right? Because I know Bear rolled. He only has 14 strength, and he's using a strength weapon as is smart. So, at 8th level, maybe I'd want to use a cantrip instead, but I also want to be in melee because I've got heavy armor, I'm a tank.
The cantrips do scale, which is nice. It's something like Sacred Flame isn't a ranged attack roll, So you can be in melee and do Sacred Flame at the same time, and that's probably better at this point at 5th level than meleeing.
Yeah.
And if you made it to 8th, I think it becomes worth it to melee again, but you'd prefer to have the other one probably.
Yeah, and I mean, you could even flavor if you want to keep the flavor. You could even flavor it as you're, swinging your sword to do the Sacred Flame.
Oh, for sure.
For someone,
and why wouldn't you?
There's space there, and like you said, you're not going to go the other way. So I think if you're a domain cleric user, you're probably not going to swap from potent spellcasting back to divine strike. You don't have the proficiencies.
Not for this one. For sure.
You don't. Looking at the rest of it, you kind of want to be in the back, buffing people, helping people, rather than being at the front, being the tank or being a melee threat, which makes sense. But just maybe you want to flavor it differently, but just be aware that you might be worse off.
The features that you get don't really cannibalize much in terms of your actions in combat, because you're doing your Emboldening Bond probably before combat even begins, which leaves you open to casting Bless and doing your cantrips as usual in combat. Shared Burden is a reaction, and you're not usually using reaction that much to begin with, especially if you're not in melee.
Protective Bond doesn't use anything you do.
The first one, and it uses their stuff. Yeah, it's nothing to do with you. Potent spellcasting. Yeah, so far, you're doing everything a normal cleric does in combat. A generic cleric does in combat.
I do wonder if
includes cantrips.
Yeah, I do wonder if Emboldening Bond should be not an action; it should be a minute or something. Just a slight nerf, because with it as an action, you can use it in combat, which is fine. But it does kind of be. I guess I think maybe it's kind of leaning more towards ceremony stuff. 6 seconds, just like, you two work together, quick, go, and then my god saw it. It's all fine, you know.
I don't think it's any stranger than casting Bless in the first place, right?
No, I guess Bless is kind of, you know, your
I
god
suppose
is
I get what
giving
you
them the
mean,
power. This is the bond between the two allies, and if they're in the middle of a fight, and you just kind of go, you two work together, they're like, well, what? You know, it's taking maybe flavors of the absurd, kind of distracting from what it is. But I just think maybe because if you have it as a minute, it also means if one of the two of your bond goes down, you can't just quickly action two other people together with a spell slot to keep it going. It doesn't then make it so you really have to protect those two and make sure it gives you maybe some more decisions to make around making sure those two stay up to keep this stuff rolling. But again, maybe not. Maybe I'm not a good game designer.
I will say, like, a lot of your bond stuff is really going to be focused on the same two people permanently, probably. Like, there's going to be, when you look at a party, there are going to be two best people to put Emboldening Bond on, and those are the people you're probably always going to have it on.
Yeah.
There's not going to be many situations where you think, oh, I'm going to swap it up. These two people aren't getting along so much in the RP, so I'll make them to the bond now, which is kind of, it might end up just being mechanically less useful to put it on yourself and the wizard or something like that, just because you guys don't make as much use of these roles.
I guess you might change it between like RP and combat, for example, if you want to use the ability checks. But even then, you'd probably just use guidance, right? Because it's a cantrip. Although, again, if you're in a place where you can't do spellcasting, maybe this is good. You know, because there's still the RP element of you know, when you use guidance or something, you're still casting a spell, which someone can go, hey, stop that.
I was going to mention that earlier as well. Like, if you're doing persuasion checks and you've got the cleric casting guidance over your shoulder, it's a little much. That probably doesn't happen so much. The cleric themselves, I think I can kind of get it. I know you just have guidance macro to all of your
I think it's
skills.
just because
I think that's fair, because like if you imagine like a cleric doing the kind of cross hand sign as they're speaking to you, that it's in flavor for a cleric that they might do something like that to guide themselves, or just kind of like doing a little, like a tick almost as they're asking for help or persuading something. They're kind of, that fits, but maybe not so much if you're doing it for someone else. And that is a useful feature of that. The fact that it is not obviously a spell. Enduring Unity?
Yes, I think this is the final one. Scroll down. Yes. The last one's also okay. 17th level. So this is, you know, way in the end. The bond you create endure across vast distances. Creatures affected by your Emboldening Bond feature gain its benefits, as well as those of your Protective Bond feature, while they are on the same plane of existence as each other. Additionally, when a creature chosen of your Emboldening Bond is reduced to 0 hit points, their bonded partner gains the following benefit for a minute or until the creature regains at least 1 hit point. Creature has advantage on attack rolls, ability check, saving throws. Creature gains resistance to all damage. And as an action, the creature can touch their bonded partner to expend and roll any number of their hit die. The bonded partner regains a number of hit points equal to that total roll.
I mean, this is insane. Same plane of existence. That removes the worst penalty of this, having to stay within 30 feet of one another. Not that other creatures are necessarily going to understand that, and they really shouldn't. But if they manage to separate the two people, then you lose everything until they manage to get back together. And it's really easy for players to forget that as well, and probably DMs to forget it. I imagine as the paladin rushes forward and goes 40 feet away from the rogue on the first turn, and then uses his D4, someone might not remind them that it doesn't work that way. But on the same plane of existence is super good, and this is when someone goes down, your entire party is a lot worse off. I mean, very suddenly, right? It's like a snowballing thing. You've lost someone, and now the party is considerably weaker during that. So this really does make up for that. Resistance to all damage being the big thing, I think. Even I guess the advantage on attack rolls is super good as well. And that creature, which is normally, if you've been using it all this time, they're probably still within 30 feet of each other most of the time anyway. Them being able to go over and, as an action, restore their partner with their hit dice.
Any number as well.
Any number, all of them. You're level 17.
17, D10s.
So what's that? 5.5 times 17?
Impossible to work out.
93 health as an action. 93 health. I mean, obviously it's consuming a resource, but I don't know if hit points are hit dice are used all that much. Maybe they are. We haven't played like high level stuff, and you probably get hit pretty hard. The high level stuff.
Yeah.
But being able to just go over and the fighter just heals the rogue for 100 HP to get them back up. I mean, it's definitely you just don't. If this happens as a cleric, you don't bother casting healing word on the rogue.
No.
Yeah, you just wait for the. It does again eat into the fighter's action, which at 17th level is what 3 attacks that also have advantage right now. So on that front, I mean, they use action surge, right? Use your action surge to heal your friend for 100 HP. It's super good. I mean, and again, it doesn't cost the cleric anything. It's just buffing a feature they're already doing. It's making this crazy, amazing feature even better. To the point that this is one of the. If this is a spell at 17th level, you're thinking, what do I spend my first level spell slots on each day? You spend them all on this. This is the best first level spell in the game. to the point that I've done it for 4 hours already. I'm out of it. I'm just gonna start spending second level spells. Why wouldn't I? It's such a good feature. This is up at all times that you're in combat. You will always spend a spell slot to get this on 2 people.
Yep.
And if they both die, you just
bond to other people.
Do you spend your action to cast Mass Healing Word? Is that a spell? Or spend action to cast Aid or something like that to get your 2 friends up, or do you just put this bond on 2 other party members instead? That's the thing. They're both such good options. You probably do get your 2 friends back up.
I mean, you could take this to the absurd.
It does stay on them. Actually, that's fair.
You could take this to the absurd. Say you are the fighter rogue we talked about. The rogue's gone, I'm down to 1 hit point. I'm going to disengage. I'm going to stab myself in the leg. Go unconscious.
Why disengage? Just walk away and waste the opportunity.
Yeah, but then you're down in melee. Guy. If you walk away, then you're not going to get meleeed and start taking the double death saves. Go somewhere safe, hide. Yeah. Go somewhere safe, hide, hurt yourself. Then suddenly you've got this super buffed.
We would never allow this.
Then you've got this super buffed fighter who's going to go through. You take this, a ridiculous situation. It also does ability checks. You're in the middle of a conversation. You punch the other guy, knock him out. Suddenly you have advantage on all checks. Obviously, very stupid. But as
very
written,
stupid. Yeah, as written.
Like, I mean, if I was the rogue in this situation, I'm thinking,
if the rogue has an ability used on them that exhausts them or something that just makes them useless, then they might be better off just killing themselves.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing. Like you're at level 17 at this point. We've kind of discussed you're using this emboldening bond on the same 2 people. This fighter and this rogue are going to be like super good friends. This rogue's going to think, I'm not right now. I'm not useful for the fighter. The fighter's going to go, no, my friend, he's been hurt, and then he's going to go mental. Like there's a situation there where the rogue actually might think, for the betterment of our bond, I should remove myself from the situation whilst he goes berserk, and then hopefully the cleric comes and picks me up later.
It is a little strange, I'll say, but technically it could work that way. We've talked about paired character stories before. Mm-hmm. I really like the idea. I would like to do it. In fact, to be honest, I would prefer to do it than to do solo characters most of the time. So in the future, I'm probably gonna when we have more than one character coming into a party at once, I'll probably ask the person if they want to team up a backstory in some way. If we have ideas that work together, this is like a triple thing, right? If I know that 2 other people are making a 2 buddies, and I know that this feature would work well on them. If it is a fighter and a rogue, for example, I'd happily go for the cleric. Even better is at level 1 if maybe it is a paladin and a rogue, and they don't get on, and your entire motive in the party is to make these 2 work together well, and you keep putting this on them. I think that works really well. Super flavorful. All of the features really fit into this idea of unity, I guess. I mean, it's basically 1 feature, right? 2 features. It's Emboldening Bond.
It's one feature which kind of talks about all the others, and then you've got your shared burden as well. But most of it is around this 1 feature of 2 people linking 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's
strong mechanically, strong flavorfully.
Very good. Like you say, strong mechanically, strong flavorful. Like I think in the last episode we mentioned that my whole campaign that I make is based around a Unity, which then fell apart. So
I mean, this only makes sense to people who've played your campaigns, but I would like to play a Dragonborn cleric of the Unity domain who no longer is part of the Aranites, because they cared more about the Unity. They turned their back on that to kind of come and work in the Thrastos instead. And try and bring all the Unity back together. That's their main motive, which I think is the motive of someone's character in the campaign right now, right? To reunify everyone.
Yeah, that's his his dream. But even so, you could play this again. This is lore for my campaign. Essentially, there was all the quote unquote good races formed a Unity, kicking out all the quote unquote bad races like the hobgoblins, goblins, that kind of thing. Eventually, the hobgoblins formed their own Unity, and then fought back, and through various political reasons, the Dragonborn decided to leave and start their own, which broke up the Unity, which caused a whole war to go on. You could play a Unity cleric that's trying to link all three. You're like, you know what? We've been stupid. Why aren't we all working together against to better the whole world? Make some sort of European Union. Not to go down that road, but you know what I mean. You actually come in and say, look, we should be working with hobgoblins. We are always stronger together. We're all sharing this world, that kind of thing. And that could work in any campaign where you have evil races versus good races, right? If you've got the main crux at the very start of your campaign is there are goblins raiding villages. Your Unity cleric could be someone who thinks, okay, I want to be able to broker peace between them because it benefits everyone. Whether that works in your campaign or not is, up to you. But there's a lot of space here. There's loads of,
I like the role playing potential. I like the flavor of the subclass, which I mean it's difficult to say the two features that you have don't fit into that idea. The features themselves are really strong. I'm going to say one thing though. I don't think either of them are particularly fun. The two features. I think once you've used them, you're never going to get that adrenaline rush of, oh, wow, yeah, this thing that I did really helped the party in a specific way. It's just a general thing you've always kind of got there. And I like features where it's like, oh, I managed to make really good use of that feature and it saved the day. Obviously you're going to have the reaction that someone uses to grant resistance. That's probably saving the day all the time. I mean, say shared burden is probably saving the day. Maybe that is fun in that way.
I think shared burden is going to be the more fun thing here. I think you can kind of take it, I guess, the fun is the friendship we made along the way, to use the horrible phrase again. But you as your cleric are seeing these two people working together and doing all this good stuff because of you. Yeah, it doesn't feel very impactful.
Fun.
Mechanical wise, it doesn't feel very impactful, but definitely flavor wise, it does.
Yeah, the flavor is fun, but I don't think that mechanically the abilities are necessarily that fun. And to be fair, a lot of the cleric features aren't resistance to fire damage as a forest cleric when you get that. And +1 AC. It's not particularly fun ability, but the knowledge domain gets as an action, you can get proficiency in a skill or tool for 10 minutes, and even if that isn't very useful, I think that's a fun ability. I would feel good when I'm actually use that to good effect.
Yeah.
And maybe that only comes in when it's not strong. I don't know. Thinking of the warlock ability, the thrall one that they get at max level. Not a max level, but at a high level, where they can just keep making thralls every time they kill someone. That's a great old one, Warlock. That's a very useful ability, and it's also super cool and fun, in my opinion.
I guess my question to you here is what is your example of? I guess you gave that one, but of the ones that you've used and the ones that you've played, or the ones you've kind of looked at to think about playing or made a character for, what is one which you feel is super impactful? And I guess early levels as well is where we're thinking, because obviously later levels, quite a lot of those things are very impactful. But if we're thinking most campaigns don't get past level 10 or whatever, is there any kind of feature for any class or subclass that you think, this is super fun and is going to be super impactful at the right time?
Sure.
Because when I think of the Forge Cleric one, when I did that thing to get the spell components, I was just that was useful. I didn't really get the...
You didn't get the adrenaline rush.
No, I didn't feel like the times it's going to be useful, but I'm not going to feel super pumped about it compared to maybe shared burden. I would feel more pumped about.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when have you felt pumped? When are the times you felt like, oh man, I really like saved the day there, or I really affected things by remembering I had this feature?
Uh,
I can think of an example that I've done that, and it completely goes against what I just said,
what's
which would
your
be
example? I'll think up.
it's when Harold took down the green dragon, because I realized that going over to the ranger and healing them would not be as good as stealing their bow.
Yeah, that
Riding
was
after the dragon,
that.
realizing that I had advantage in all the attacks because they still had my vow of enmity on them, and
Hmm,
then shooting the dragon down.
yeah, that
That
was
was one of the best moments.
a little bit absurd. Thing is, the time I feel like I really helped and did stuff was when Drake Silver did 91 damage in like one turn.
Sure, I guess
Which
maybe it does all this come down to damage. I think you as the cleric aren't really doing the thing there though, right?
no,
Like
that's very true.
aside from the shared burden, which is really good, I think actually probably will come up as quite often as being, oh, I really saved the day there, and my
Yeah,
future game is super useful. But a lot of the other stuff, maybe not so much.
yeah. Because I'm trying to
Um,
think like when is a time that I felt Bear has been super impactful, and outside of like doing some of the roleplay stuff with him, like his combat loop is good and useful, but nothing like outstanding. And I guess maybe that's just kind of my personality, where I think, big numbers equals big fun. Um,
maybe.
which I definitely lean a lot towards role playing and that kind of being impactful. But like features that I've used in the past, I don't know. I guess the other thing here is I've DM'd more than I've played. I
Yeah,
think,
that's true.
which
I mean, well,
means
can you
I
think
don't.
examples?
I kind of don't go into this stuff.
Hmm. I guess maybe like a lot of the other times it's just like a really good persuasion check or something
Hmm.
goes off, especially something that just didn't sound convincing in the first place. Um, but yeah, I am trying to think of uh, other features. I think a lot of the times they're hypothetical ones, and when they do come, they don't really necessarily feel quite so good. But I mean, if you got put into prison as bear, you can just melt the bars and turn them into weapons for the whole party. If we got put in jail, you
It's
know,
very true. Very true.
that would feel good. But that is a hypothetical.
Mhm. And I was going to say Bear's going to try and avoid jail, but we are currently wanted in that campaign. So I guess that would
That's
make
true.
sense. But I think we're probably wanted dead or alive. I don't think we're going to go to jail.
Yeah, you're
Um,
probably right.
yeah, it's a good class. It's a very, very, very good class.
And it's a very
Um,
good subclass
very
as
good
well, I would
subclass.
say.
We usually get to the discussion anyway. But I'll ask specifically: would you play this class?
100%, I would play it. Yeah, I like it.
Hmm.
I have. I mean, we've gone through a few of them recently where I have said I would really like to play this, and they're kind of they're on my radar of things I want to play, and I kind of need to find the right situation for them. I do think I might play this if I had to play with a new group of players, because I think playing a character that cares about the rest of the group interacting well. And when I play with new players, that's kind of what I try and do as the player, is
Hmm.
try and get the other people to interact. I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah,
I think if this were to come out before the campaign where I'm playing Bear started, there would be potential where I would look towards
yeah.
playing this one. I could
Bear,
pretty much
Bear would, the idea for the character would
yeah,
make sense for this.
pretty much play the same character except take out all the blacksmith stuff. He
Yeah,
basically just take out the fact that the family is blacksmiths, put in that they're basically clerics, and it's the same character. And
and he might
um,
have gotten less angry over time.
yes, that's very true. It's good, and there's a lot of space here for even within the subclass. There's a lot of space for how you play this. Do you play someone who is quite quite charismatic? Very much a I was going to say exorcist. I meant an extrovert.
I mean, you're kind of an exorcist if you're a player. You've got
Yeah,
character.
I suppose. You could play an extroverted one who's like, you could play it like a the old the kind of stereotype of you have a company outing or a company like team building exercise, and you got that really
Sure,
like
yeah. You're the team
hyperactive
leader
guy
for
at the
team building
front,
exercise.
like, hey, welcome, we're gonna do some team building exercise, trustful, that kind of thing. Or you could be
Yeah,
very much a neutral, just like, I think the world works better as a united faction. I feel like this war is driving, causing more problems when we should really just be doing this. I want to be able to, help unite, being a very kind of calm, almost like therapist for
yeah.
the party. There's
I
Loads you
almost
can do.
like I like the parental aspect of it, where especially if you played an older character, you could and the group had like younger people in it, like you could be the kind of person that people come to for life advice,
Hmm.
that sort of thing, and you like deeply care about the other people and kind of think of them as your family, maybe more so than like the average player thinks of their party as like a family unit.
Mm.
Um,
I guess one
where
problem
they
there is if you're playing this from one. This is something I've had trouble with when making some characters, making older characters, especially if you're playing something like
Sure,
an elf or a dwarf, which can live hundreds of years. Making them
sure.
being level 1. Like, what the hell were they doing for the first 600 years? You know.
Yeah, I mean, I played a level 1 fighter uh, who was kind of middle aged, I guess. But it's just he'd served for a long time and kind of had retired, and then now he'd been thrust into a situation where he needed to like do something else, and that was really just when he started his adventuring career, I guess. And we had Jason as well,
Mhm.
just someone going through the motions before they are put into a situation where they really need to act, I
Yeah.
guess. And that's when their skills really develop when they're like on the road adventuring and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that can make sense, but I understand what you mean about a level. It does often feel strange for an
Yeah.
older character to be level 1. But I mean, you could literally have just been someone. You could just been an acolyte. You can be someone who all they did is work in a church their entire life. Um,
And they've had
which
to
is
learn the road and stuff. Yeah, I mean that's fair.
yeah,
Like the fact that they were in the as an acolyte their whole life, and their god has now seen they're doing this extra work, and they're going, hang on, we've got to pay attention to this guy. Especially if you're in a church of, lots and lots and lots of people. As adventurers, you're kind of special. Um, you're not necessarily
yeah.
special straight away. You could have a backstory which is special straight away.
You're
Bear
probably
wasn't
you
very
probably are.
special. Overall, he was just a member of this thing. As you become adventurers, you become like the 1% or the 0.1% of people. And
I
if
think
you're,
you're already
if
like the top 5% of people
yeah,
as a level 1 though.
yeah, but I think the point is like RP wise, if you're at a church with lots and lots of people, you've been an acolyte for many years, you're probably not going to stand out compared to everyone else. Yes, first level stats wise, you're probably better than most of the people there. But if you
Sure.
haven't done anything like noteworthy, your god probably isn't going to pay attention to you. You're going to be just
Yeah,
lost in a sea of
that's
people. As soon
fair.
as you start going out adventuring, and you start doing all
I
these
hadn't actually
things,
considered that. Yeah.
your god is going to start actually going, oh, hang on, this guy's different. Yes, he's been doing this for 600 years and he's kind of just been going through the motions, but now he's really like improving. Maybe I should start paying attention to him. Maybe I should be giving him more power. Maybe I should be giving him more spell slots or whatever.
When your power doesn't necessarily come directly from you, I guess it does make sense that as a cleric, it's kind of what your god thinks of what you do rather
Hmm.
than necessarily your personal
Yeah.
experience.
So if you're coming from a church with
I
loads
can
and
agree
loads of
with that.
people, this makes sense to be old. Or
Yeah.
in fact,
You
your
see that
previous
guy?
character has died. You come in at level.
He went into a house and killed 100 spiders.
Wow.
He's someone to pay attention to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him some more spell slots. I
Yeah,
hate spiders.
but your character dies. You could then come in as like an 8th level or whatever.
Yeah,
You could then be the parental figure. Like you could be the thing that's that
I
character's
mean,
died. There's going to be some
I would
disruption. You could come in and be like the calming force.
I'd still be happy to play the parental character from level 1.
Hmm.
Uh,
I mean, to be fair,
it could be as simple as you're driven out of your town or something like that. Like
also I'm taking this to absurd. If everyone else is like in their in their teens, you could just be 30 and still be a parental figure.
yeah, that's very true.
Because I think I'm going to guess
A
when
lot of
most people
do choose.
play a character, I reckon most people choose 18, just because it's the
Yeah.
number that everyone thinks
I,
is adulthood, like just becoming an adult, and that's when you
I
think come on
specifically
adventure.
tend to stay away from that. Also,
Mhm.
you've also got the other races. It is a little strange when you're a parental character
Yeah.
at 30 when the young elf is 120 years old or something.
Yes. Yeah, that's always a weird thing. Like obviously,
Yeah.
my bear is he wants to kind of be that kind of guiding force, but we've got a 100-year-old elf in the party,
Yeah.
who's lived 4 times his life, and bear's going to have another 10 times the years he's had unless he dies early, but average lifespan, he could reach 250. So he's barely started his life, and when someone else is 25, like a human, they're already a third of the way to dead.
Yeah. I think Nettie, she could use some parental advice, even though she is 30 herself.
She could have used a parent growing up.
Yeah. Anything else to say on this this subclass?
No,
I think
we've said everything. It's good. It's looks fun. Lots of.
I would play it.
We would play it. There's lots of scope. You know, when we discussed the Bard College creation, we both went, we wouldn't play this because there's something else we want to play. When it comes to this cleric, like, I'm sure I'd want to play like a storm. I could play all the clerics. This one just adds onto that list, and I've got ideas for it straight away, just by reading it. I think maybe that's maybe a cleric thing just in general, but this is definitely good, very good. Chad doesn't think it's going to make it to any sort of published content. Based on
no. I think it will make it to published content. Flavor wise, I think a Unity thing will make it, but I don't think in its current state it will. I think all of these features are too strong to make it published content.
Yeah. I guess what something we can look at some point is like UAs that have become written, what kind of got nerfed. Maybe
Hexblade made it to written content.
That's very true. So maybe this is just another Hexblade. It's the Hexblade of the clerics.
It doesn't have the problems that Hexblade had. I mean, it's very strong. It's just like strong overall, but Hexblade has problems because of the way it interacts with other classes. Everyone's multi-classing into Hexblade. That's the issue.
Yeah, that is the issue. Obviously, it's one level dip into Hexblade is. Well, I mean, one level dip into this, you get the.
Yeah, it is really good. Yeah, one level dip. Even 2 for the Channel Divinity as well, because it's not like that doesn't change in scaling in any way. That's always good.
Well, take this. It's
not like it's reduce the damage someone takes by 2d6, and it just kind of becomes useless later on. It's just percentage, right?
You as a paladin double dip into this. You suddenly are using Emboldening Bond yourself. You're using Shared Burden on yourself and stuff.
Yeah, I guess
you could start. We've said obviously as a Unity cleric, you're going to be generally with these we don't go into multi-classing just because it's easier to read them as face value. But for this one, like if you're Unity domain, we said you're going to be at the back. You don't have much armor or anything. If you've multi-classed into something, or you do multi-class into something, you suddenly become the threat, and you have all these bonuses on yourself as well. There's stuff. It's workable.
Yeah, I don't actually know how Channel Divinity interacts between clerics and paladins and classes. I think you only have one of them. I think if you get Channel Divinity from both, you still only get one charge.
Right.
Use four ways of using it instead.
Even like a fighter cleric,
Yeah, I mean,
that then becomes you got to dip into quite a lot of different avenues. You got to make sure your wisdom is fairly high.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got your wisdom, you've got your charisma already as a paladin. They use different stats, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's us done for this one. Next on the list is
Clockwork Sorcerer.
Clockwork Sorcerer.
Soul. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you have any other opinions, any ideas, please leave comments. All the YouTube stuff, subscribe, whatever. Yeah, thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Yes, thank you.